So first of all, I want to say thank you to Dr. Abernathy for inviting me, and Dr. Blake for putting this together in such a short amount of time. But yeah, so in a couple weeks it will be 30 years since I've been on this campus. And quite honestly, when I walked across that stage, I was an angry black kid that vowed never to come back. So it means a lot to me to be here today. The fact that you invited me back to share from my experience is huge. So thank you for that. Dr. Abernathy got in touch with another college, a lot like Alma, that I've been working with. And so when I got the email from that president that I might get a call from Alma, my response to her was, wow, that's cool. This could be a real good healing process for me. And so I chose to come to Alma College. But growing up, we never talked about race and the impact of race. So I didn't understand that the world wasn't like Detroit. And I visited Alma, but my 17-year-old brain just wasn't putting that together, that I was about to go to literally a school in the middle of cornfields that really has no diversity to it. I didn't understand what impact that would have on me. And so, man, I can remember my room was 222 Mitchell, and I remember my parents leaving and shutting the door of their room and just hearing the sounds bounce off those concrete walls and going, man, what did I just step into? So this is something that I want to get across to you because it's important. I don't think if you're from the majority, you don't understand. Or if you've never been in a majority environment, I always tell, when I talk to parents who are raising children of color, white parents raising children of color, I always encourage them, you need to go into a black barbershop, because then you get to understand what it's like for your child every day to be a minority. And if you've never experienced that, you've never experienced the weight of what that feels like. And then you add on top of that, I came from Detroit, where it's like every day I saw black people. The high school I went to was about the same size as Alma, about 1,100 students at that time. And we were just such a close-knit family. And so we all got along. So then I come up to Alma, where of the 1,100 students, I'm one of 13. And us black students can't get along. And I'm freaking out because that's never been my experience. We've always bonded together. And so not only am I dealing with that, but now I'm dealing with a rigorous class schedule that didn't compare to my high school. So in high school, I didn't have to work and I got B's. At Alma, I studied 4 or 5 hours a day and was barely getting C's. And all that's going on in my head. And so when I like to work with small colleges like Alma, because I think it's just, you have a great group of students. We just got to do things a little better. And you've got to understand the impact that can have on a child. And then when colleges go, man, we can't figure out why we're not keeping these kids or why these kids aren't doing well. Because there's a whole lot going on in their heads. And so we've got to do a better job of creating a safe place for them to land. And quite honestly, coming to Alma was culture shock. And yeah, there was, I don't even know if they had black student unions back there, but that's what we needed. We needed someone on campus to help us take pride in who we were as black students and to guide us through the fact that we needed each other. And we needed to lean on each other and support each other instead of tearing each other down. And honestly, it became this competition between me and Lindley from New York, and even though I was raised in a white family, I didn't navigate this white environment as good as some of the other black kids. And man, I resented them for that. And so I just wrote them off. And so we needed someone there guiding us to figure out all this stuff, and then to leave here with a sense of pride. And then one thing that's important too is that you could have students, black students that come from a predominantly white environment that have not spent a lot of time around other black students. That's important for them to get to know who they are. So people always say, yeah, college is a great place to go and find yourself. Man, so I'm trying to do that. I'm trying to figure out my racial identity. I'm trying to find out why no one else is thinking like I think and everybody else that I grew up with thought. And man, there was just a lot going on in my head. And so this is how I saw Alma. I saw it as a 4-year prison term. And I couldn't wait to get out of here. Yeah, and God bless my mother, because when we went home on breaks, man, I was hell to deal with Saturday night and Sunday, because I did not want to come back. And my mother put up with a lot. And I came back. I looked at it like this was a financial transaction. I paid you for an education, you gave it to me, don't call me asking me for anything else. And I was only 1% of the student body. They didn't need me. Alma wasn't going to fold if I didn't come back. And so, yeah, the struggle now is with so much competition in colleges, and online stuff, students don't have to be as loyal as I was and can change and leave quickly. And so that's what you've got to deal with. Yeah, students have a whole lot more options today. And so here's a question, and when I present, I don't like to sit here and talk to you for 90 minutes. So the question is, how would you handle a Kevin today? How do you connect with that child to give them a place of belonging, to a place that can be so overwhelming to them? Because that's really your challenge. I've done work in churches too, which is always interesting. So I was working with a church in the Toledo area, and I was talking to a white church that wanted to become more inclusive, bring other people in, not like them. And so the pastor shared with me, he was actually one of my mentors, and he said, we assume that after they come, then we'll create programs to support them. And he was like, no, that's backwards. So he said, we've got to go about it to create an environment so that when they get here, they're comfortable. So he said, I had a predominantly white congregation, and part of that was infusing in gospel music, so that when the black people came, they felt comfortable at more at home. And so that's what you've got to do, is create an environment where students of color feel more comfortable before they get here. And here's, man, if you can crack the nut on this question, you win. And it's easy. You know, the college who creates an environment where all students can belong is the college that wins. So how do you create this sense of belonging? And that's really tough to do at a predominantly white institution for students of color. What are you giving to them to help them connect? So he must have seen that I was struggling, and he came up to me one day in a very unique way, connected with me. And he asked me about the civil rights group, the Chicago 7. And I had no clue what he was talking about. I went right to the library and researched that. And the power and pride I got from researching those 7 guys was a lot. That meant a lot to me. And that was his unique way of connecting with me. Because he saw that, man, I was drowning. That's a cool way to connect with students. Man, when you see that they're not fitting in or things aren't going right, find some way to connect.